Another thread that I want us to think about is this idea of to be and to become. So here on the left, you can see a tree. And on the right-hand side, you can see it's anchored in roots. And these strong, powerful roots allow the tree to grow and allow the tree to become something beyond what it is right now. Play is much the same. So play allows children to be. So through play, the children might be artists or designers or writers. But play also allows children to become. So through play, children might become published authors. They might become more of a risk taker. It might be linked to dispositions. They might become train drivers and vets. So jobs that they don't really have in real life, but through play, play allows them to become these roles. And again, loose parts. Loose parts can be, so in this picture, you can see buttons. So we can use buttons as buttons, but these buttons with learners might become the eyes of a monster. They might become the the wheels of a car or some sort of transportation. They might become money as currency to trade in role play in a shop. So have a think about this idea of to be and to become. And we're also going to think about, well, why bother with loose parts? What's the fuss about them? So again, if we think about the tree, above ground, this is what we see. And loose parts are what we see and what we use. But with the tree, we're anchored in these deep, powerful, strong roots. And the analogy is the whole idea of the tree helps us to be anchored in the why. Like, why is it that we use loose parts? And sometimes the why is maybe not as obvious, it's not as seen or it's not as heard as the physical materials. But there's a whole set of beliefs and values and philosophy that really support the use of loose parts in learning. So what are some of those philosophies and beliefs? So there's a whole pedagogy to loose parts. So some of you might be in settings where within a pedagogy of inquiry, so where not knowing is valued, where children's curiosity is really nurtured. You might be in a setting where there's a pedagogy of conceptual learning, where children are really thinking about these big abstract ideas, and loose parts are a tool to help them access and think about and process these ideas. You might be in a setting where play, the pedagogy of play is important. So where children are actively making meaning for themselves, where they're directing their own learning, where they constantly have choice about what they're learning and where and when. There might be a pedagogy of thinking, a culture of thinking, and these loose parts support all of these pedagogies. There might be dispositions that support and can justify loose parts. So it might be that in your setting that playfulness or creativity or curiosity are values and dispositions that are an important part of the learning and curriculum. Loose parts give you the why. The why of loose parts links very strongly to dispositions. There's a whole set of skills that come with using loose parts. So there's a whole plethora of skills. It's from fine motor skills, gross motor skills, to thinking skills such as creativity, the whole idea of conceptual thinking, higher level thinking. There's a whole range that also include resilience and playfulness that go alongside. And then, as well as thinking skills, communication skills. So how loose parts can be used to communicate and get messages across in different ways. And then concepts themselves. So often when children are dealing and playing with loose parts, the children are involved in storytelling. So the concept of storytelling, or they're often using the loose parts in symbolic ways to represent other ideas. So they're actually engaged with the concept of symbolism. So if you or some of your colleagues might be wondering, well, what's the deal? Why loose parts? I get that they might be fun, they might be engaging, but the roots of the tree, they're anchored in so much more than the sort of the shininess of the loose parts.